Dear learners, welcome to this session in which we would be discussing the working of NGOs. We have already discussed the concept of NGOs and how the NGOs they get into working or formation of NGOs. We have all discussed all these issues, and we also now know what are the different kinds of NGOs existing in our country, and there are various types of NGOs. But we need to understand how they start working. What are the features which consist of the working of NGOs, and what are the reasons for which they start working for the welfare and the development of the society. So when we start with working of NGOs, just going back and summarizing the concept of NGO, the formal name was given in 1945 with the newly established United Nations organization, and the NGOs, they work for specifically an individual cause, the welfare of the society or the underprivileged or the distressed, then the development, then it works for the sustainable goals, it works for the health in the area of education, sanitation, etc. Now if you see these features, you will find that all these features we would be discussing in subsequent sessions which we'll be having. And like sustainable goals, like development, all these are being covered in issues of NGO management. So there are related aspects dealt with. So that is why this session is very, very important to form a basis of the subsequent sessions which would be coming in future. So when we talk about non-governmental organizations, we always say that NGOs are free from the government interventions. They do have support of the government, but they are free from the government interventions. That is why they are known as NGOs, and they work in varied fields. They can be grassroots organizations, they can be advocacy organizations, they can be operational organizations, they can be foundations, they can be trusts, they can be charitable organizations. So they can be anything what you wish to feel like. So they are formed with a purpose, with an idea which is generated. So in this session specifically, this whole session will be based on small caselets, small case situations, and all these case situations which I'll be talking about, I'll be sharing with you, they are functional in our country and are quite successful. Because when we see lot many NGOs, whether they are registered NGOs or unregistered NGOs, they come up, but all of them, they are not successful in nature. Now in case if they are not successful, there are certain reasons why they are not successful, why they are not able to sustain, why they are not able to compete. Because again, one thing is important, that in this case competition also is there. It is true that they are not-for-profit organizations, but competition between other organizations is also there. So you have to develop a certain kind of an image which helps in sustaining the NGOs. So what case situations I'll be sharing with you, these case situations will tell you how these organizations sustained in difficult times also. So these are small caselets, case situations, and there will be one video also which gives you a live feeling, a functional example of the NGOs, how they work and what is the process of working of these NGOs. Now, when we see the features of NGOs and we discuss the working of NGOs, these issues needs to be covered. And the NGOs, they basically have a very, very strong sense of commitment. Now, for example, I am associated with an NGO and I work, I support that NGO, but I don't have that sense of commitment to start my own NGO. So that sense of commitment, that you are constantly involved, you are passionately involved with those NGOs, is very, very unusual, very, very creditable. So first point to be noted here is, while discussing the working of NGOs, is that one should have the sense of commitment, and we'll be taking the examples related to this. The case studies will be based on these. The second aspect is working with the poor. Most of the NGOs, they are dealing with the poor or the downtrodden or the underprivileged or the distressed people. Most of the NGOs, they have the capacity to reach to the remote areas of need, and they of course possess first-hand knowledge of the local conditions. This is again very, very important. The NGOs, they are recognized for their innovative initiatives. Now, that idea generation, we have a concept in Government of India like Startup India, Stand Up India. So these concepts, they are based on innovations. Even NGOs are involved in these activities. So they have an idea, they think about it, and they innovate. They move into an innovative concept, and they work on that. And the other important feature is they depend on the donors for funding. So most of the NGOs, in fact almost all the NGOs, whether they are local NGOs, the national NGOs or the international NGOs, they are based on, they have the backbone of the donors who fund those NGOs, because to sustain, the NGOs do need resources, the NGOs do need funding. So that is why it is very, very important that the funding concept should be taken into care when we start understanding how the NGOs work. Now, one by one we'll take these features and we'll see how they work. Now, working of NGOs, first feature is the sense of commitment. We all know that most of the NGOs, they start with commitment of an individual or a group. They may not be experts in the field, but they do have an intention of helping. They are not financial, they may not be financially strong, but they have a strong belief. So these are the aspects which leads to the sense of commitment. In this case, I'll take a very, very popular example of one NGO which is known as CRY, that is Child Rights and You. Now this organization has been working for the past 40 years and it is doing a commendable job in catering to the needs of the poor children in and around the country. Now let us take the case of CRY. You can just go to their website www.cry.org and you can just find that on what areas they work. So when we talk about Child Rights and You, and if you see the inception, the idea generation of this organization, you'll be quite intimidated. You'll be quite surprised to know that 40 years back somebody could think of such different kind of problem which could be solved in this way. So it started with a belief that every child has a right to happy childhood. So it was started in 1979 by Mr. Ripan Kapoor with his 7 friends and with only rupees 50 in their hand and a dining table. So 40 years back, it started with rupees 50. Then they chose not to be grassroots level NGO. We have discussed types of NGOs, but most of the NGOs are grassroots level, but they chose not to be grassroots level. Instead, they chose to be acting as linkage between individuals who could provide the resources and of course the field workers who have been struggling to manage the resources. This sense of commitment led to a massive movement and gave a strong impact on the lives of children. Now, if you see the statistics of this particular organization in 2019 and 20, you'll be quite surprised to see that how much work they have done. and with 40 years, that means the sustainability part is also there. So for the past 40 years they have been working in this area, and they have sustained, and they have been able to put an impact on the children of the country, because children are the future of any nation. Now if you see the statistics, in this statistics of CRY, if you see the education part, for education they have say 1,63,541 children have been benefited within the age group of 6 to 18. School going children, they have been admitted to the school, their records have been kept, and they have benefited in 1 year, I'm talking. Now regarding the child protection part, where children have been protected from child labor, child abuse, etc. So 2064 children have been protected. The record of taking care of malnutrition amongst children, amongst poor children, it is around 88%. Regarding the immunization part, amongst the poor children, it is 97%. So they have catered whatever children they came across. So 97% of those children have been immunized. Then overall impact has been around 68,490 on the children. So this is what is the statistics of CRY. So this sense of commitment has led to this present state of this organization. So this is how the NGOs work. Now this was the first part. Now coming to the second part. NGOs usually work with the poor. Most of the NGOs, like CRY is also working with the poor. Almost all the NGOs, they work with the poor, and they act as links between the self-help groups, and they can be, and the self-promoting agencies and the government. So they have a significant role in working with poor. They work for the empowerment of poor, they work for the poverty alleviation, to increase the awareness amongst the poor, to improve the standards of living in certain ways, hygiene, etc. Now these empowerment of poor, poverty alleviation, all these parts we'll be discussing in detail in subsequent sessions. In this case, we'll just stick to the case situation 2 of Helpage India. This is an international organization, and it is kind of a society, and it works for the benefit of the old people or the elderly. So Helpage India is a part of international organization Helpage. So in different states, in different countries, they have their own people working. So in India, it is Helpage India. So if we see the Helpage India characteristics, the features regarding how they deal with the poor, that is the working of NGOs. So you can just go to their site helpageindia.org, where you will find all the details related to this organization. And this is very important to understand, that the focus of this group, this organization, is to work for the cause of disadvantaged elderly people. And the people who are poor, the elderly people who are poor, who do not have anybody in their families, and they are distraught and distressed. So the Helpage India works for them. Now it was set up in 1978, again 41 years back, and it is considered, it was registered as a society under the Societies Registration Act 1860. And as of now, the data says that there are around 104 million elderly people who are above the age of 60 years in the country. And they work for the following issues. They work for universal pension, they work for quality health care of the elders, They also work for elder abuse. Now, like child abuse, there is a concept called elder abuse where the old people are mistreated, either by their family members or by the people around, or by the society. So they work for them. They also advocate the cause for elder friendly policies, and they interact with the government. So in this case, you see that they work as a society and they work for the poor people and basically for the elderly people. Now, if we see again in the present context how they have combated, they are trying to combat the crisis situation. So if you see, HelpAge India has moved from welfare to development aspects. So they have just broadened their scope. Now, the current work status in HelpAge India is to help the elderly fight against COVID-19. Why they are doing so? Now, this is very, very important. And these case situations I'm sharing with you are very important for the another session where we'll be discussing the environment aspects. So all these things, they are interrelated. So you'll understand how the working relates to the environment also. So to help the elderly fight against COVID-19, and why do they do? Because they think and they feel that elderly have weak immune system and are at higher risk, so they need to be protected. So anybody who is above the age of 60 and who is disadvantaged, then they work for them and they are combating this crisis in this way in the present context. So this is how the NGOs are working. Coming to the another part where you see the NGOs, they are reaching to the remote areas of need, and for this we'll be sharing a video of around 6 minutes with you, and this video will show you that how the organization has reached to the sections of the society which usually are neglected by the government for some reason or the other, and may not be the priority areas. So RUSEC, the Rural Women's Social Education Center, this center has been developed by women itself, and it is doing a very good job in a small town in Tamil Nadu and a small village for that matter in Tamil Nadu, and they are doing an extremely beautiful work working for the women's social education. You see, the name itself tells the Rural Women's Social Education Center, and they are doing a good job. So if you see this video, you will find that the person, Mr. Balu is describing the whole concept and how the NGO works and what areas this NGO covers. So we'll be just listening, we'll be just seeing this video, and we'll come to know that how the NGOs, they reach to the remote areas of need. Rural Women's Social Education Center, RUSEC, a non-governmental organization, formed in the year 1981 by a team of 13 women. Among them, 12 were rural women from the villages. Along with Dr. T.K. Sundari Ravindran, RUSEC is a women's organization. Achieving women's well-being through women's empowerment is the vision of our organization since its inception. To meet the objective of women's empowerment, we have been carrying out a wider range of activities for the past 35 years. The 4 core values of our organization work are women-centered, all our programs are women-oriented, Participatory, all the activities are carried over with community participation. Rights-based, rights of women and marginalized sections. Empowerment, making the people self-sufficient and asserting their rights. By improving women's health through women's empowerment is the main focus of our work. Training women as village health leaders is one of the important activities of our organization. During 1980s, women felt shy to come out of their homes and there were severe restrictions for women. At that stage, Sanghams, village-level women's group, were formed, and these groups fought for the rights of women. Educating and empowering women during those years was an important focus. Now we have moved ahead and trained village health leaders, which is one of a milestone. Likewise, now we have trained youth volunteers to promote leadership qualities among young people and make them as youth real leaders. We continue to provide trainings for them. RUSEC continues to carry to community-based activities in the villages. The activities of our organization are as follows. The Life Skills Education Program for adolescents and young people. The program is carried out in schools, colleges, and in the villages where we work in. Combating gender-based violence against women. Combating violence in the villages by forming community-level committees. Promoting sexual and reproductive rights amongst men and women in the community. This program is carried out since the inception of the organization. Though there is an overall development, this is a felt need and we are carrying out programs to address the core issues. Preventing non-communicable diseases such as diabetes, blood pressure and cancer are common in the community. We work to create awareness, education and provide healthcare services for the same. In relation to the above programs, we carry out community-based research and also review national-level research, data and report. The research findings are used for advocacy to bring out suitable policy changes at larger level. Our research reports are also published in national and international journals. Bringing out popular health education material is the other important activity of RUSEC. There are more than 60 publications with the organization. This can be used by common people for creating awareness and some publications are used for advocacy. Apart from the above mentioned programs, we also run a clinic to provide services for the marginalized sections in the community in the form of outpatient services wherein we provide better quality of care services. To know more about our activities and to know about reader publications, please visit our website www.rusec.org. If you like to support us financially for our innovative programs or activities, please email us at rusec@vsnl.com. Thank you. So after just going through the video, now we come to the other part. This part consists of the possessing first-hand knowledge of local conditions. While working, the NGOs, most of the NGOs, they do have the knowledge of the local conditions. Usually these are grassroots organizations. In this case, these are as we took the example of CRY, where it was not a grassroots organization, in fact it was a linking organization. But in this case, when we discuss the working of NGOs who are knowing the local conditions, they are basically the grassroots organization, and basically they are local organization, but they can reach to the national level as well as international level, but they start with the local organizations. And they have a very clear-cut idea about the issues which are existing in local areas, and they have the familiarity with the people in and around the local areas. They know the challenges of those local people, and it is very, very difficult to understand the local surroundings. Now we'll just see when they possess first-hand knowledge of local conditions and how the organizations they work. Now for this I'll take one case, that is case 4 of Goa Outreach. Now these are the organizations. You can have the local organization, you can just observe in your surroundings also, where you will be having the local organizations, NGOs working for a specific cause. Now this organization, Goa Outreach, it is, you can just go to their website and you will just see how they work. GoAoutreach.org, it's a local organization, local NGO. The focus is working for the slum and the street children. They help the local and the disadvantaged children. The activities include enrolling the underprivileged children in the school, of course in the government school, and they create awareness regarding hygiene, and they create an atmosphere where they can remember their childhood. Instead of, because most of the people, what happened, most of the children, they go along with their parents for rag picking, for begging, etc., and they are not able to enjoy their childhood. So this organization provides this kind of an atmosphere for their childhood. So they also keep the record of the children who are being admitted in the school or enrolled in the school, that how they are performing, how they are reaching towards the goal which Goa Outreach has formulated for those children. And they have a very beautiful tagline which I think every one of us should follow, that a simple way to get children to stop begging is to stop giving the children who beg. So if you stop giving to them, they'll have a sense of self-worth, because begging creates a kind of a situation where the children, the innocent minds, they also lose the security and the self-worth of themselves. So this is a very beautiful idea which Goa Outreach is working on. Now in this case, this is the local NGO, and they know about those people, those children who are working in the slums and who are staying in the slums and the street children. Now coming to the last two parts of working of NGOs, that is innovative initiative and the funding part. Now funding part is related to all the NGOs, all the 4 NGOs we have discussed. The funding part comes into picture for all those NGOs. So that is one of the most important aspects for working of NGOs. But we'll take it here in this organization. In this case, I would be discussing a case of Akshay Patra, which is also an innovative initiative. And many NGOs across the country, they have developed innovative ways to serve the society. And these NGOs have been quite successful, but they need funding for the project to keep going. And innovation and funding go hand in hand. Now let us see how it works and how it started. Now Akshay Patra, you can go to their website akshaypatra.org, and you'll find all the details related to this organization and how it started with the concept, with the thought which Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ji started thinking when he saw children starving way back in say 70s. But the focus of this organization is that no child should be deprived of education because of hunger. Most of the NGOs, they are working on this cause, but the innovative aspect in this is this organization started in 2000 and they started the first midday meal program for around 1500 children across 5 government schools, and this was an innovative idea which they came up. And this is considered to be one of the world's largest midday meal program, and that is the beauty of this organization. This organization is built on the PPP model, that is public-private partnership model, where organization from private, from public, that is government, everybody is involved and the funding is being provided through this. The first funding was in form of you can say transport vehicle for taking the meals to the schools. So it has partnered with Government of India and other state governments as well as philanthropists and the corporates also to take this cause, take this innovative cause further. So this is Akshay Path Foundation. Now let us sum up the whole concept, how the NGOs have been working. The NGOs, they demonstrate a sense of commitment. NGOs primarily work for the poor. NGOs are able to reach remote areas of need, and they possess first-hand knowledge of local conditions. They are recognized for their innovative initiatives, and they depend on donors for funding. So these are the features of working of NGOs, related to working of NGOs, and we have taken number of case studies to describe the whole concept. Thank you so much.